This Mill Creek Cacao, they're in Utah, and they flavor their bars, but they don't flavor it by adding ingredients. They simply let it be near or have near the aroma of these various things. So there will be orange oils, or my favorite is they put, as they're making the chocolate, they put it near raspberry oils, and it takes on that taste. It's a really interesting way to produce chocolate, and I love what they do. They use the same beans for every bar, but they flavor them simply by aroma. Totally unique. Okay, so here's the Pump Street that we talked about. These are the guys that started out by making bread, and then they decided, hey, we should do chocolate too. I'm not sure that's exactly how they decided it, but somewhere along the way they decided to make chocolate. And we love this because the chocolate actually takes on those bready notes because it's in the air where they're making the bars. And they're a wonderful maker. They do a great job. Good Now Farms, as I talked about earlier, they're relatively new to the market, just in the last few years, and yet they're winning a ton of awards. And the unique thing that they really hang their hat on, in addition to just producing good quality chocolate, is they use their own cocoa butter, and it's single origin cocoa butter, and nobody else really does that. As I mentioned, America's most award-winning chocolate maker. I absolutely love the work that they do. This particular box, or this particular bar that I meant that's in your box, actually represent beans from a plantation that only he has rights to. There's no other chocolate maker in the world that can get beans from this area, and that's why this bar is so unique, so wonderful. Interestingly, many, many years ago, decades ago, it was actually the Europeans, the French and the Italians, that figured out what to do with these cocoa beans, or these cacao beans that grew originally in South America. So companies like Amadei and Valrhona and Francois Pralou, these are the guys that figured out how to add sugar and milk to chocolate to make it truly palatable. Before that, it was just cacao beans in the form of cocoa, and it was quite bitter, and they really had add a lot of spices and things to make it palatable at all. But these guys made it into the delicious delicacy, or the delicious dessert that we have today. Omnom, this is a really interesting company. They are in Iceland, and when they use milk in their bars, it's Icelandic milk powder. One bar in particular is interesting. This bar is especially interesting because they use Icelandic milk powder and Icelandic sea salt, black sea salt. And then they add some additional stuff to this bar. They burn barley and put those burnt barley pieces in the bar. So this is a white chocolate that looks black and has really interesting flavors that they've added to it. So Naive has done what I've never seen anyone else do before. They've created a chocolate with cacao pulp on the outside of the bar. Cacao pulp is it's a white, moist, gooey pulp that surrounds all of the cocoa beans as it grows, and they've decided to put that in there on top of their chocolate in this particular bar. It's wonderful. I love that now I don't eat chocolate. I experience it. I let it melt on my mouth, and I try to imagine what notes or I taste the various notes that come through. I like exploring. I feel like every manufacturer has a story and every bar has a story, and it's really fun to learn those stories, to learn who's doing what and how they're doing it. And I've learned that craft chocolate is actually helping change the world. Sounds a little bit cheesy, but craft chocolate beans actually command twice the price on the commodities market as regular chocolate, the chocolate you get in the grocery stores. So for example, I just read this the other day. Most chocolate that everyone has in the world, I think they charge $2,400 for a ton. Fair trade chocolate that you might get in Whole Foods or some of those other places, they charge they pay a whole $2,600 for a ton. But craft chocolate like this, they get $5,400 a ton. It's a big difference that makes a huge difference to the individual families and farmers all over the world. So cacao grows in these pods, And then when you split open the pod, it's a white pulp. And eventually, as you let that pulp dry, you get individual cacao beans. So cacao beans, they don't come in a pod open like this and dried, but when you dry them out, this is what they look like. And then they crush these, and they continue to crush it and crush it and crush it until they're tiny, tiny little particles. Cacao nibs are actually just crushed cacao beans. So technically speaking, cacao turns into cocoa when you roast it, and generally that means it's crushed down into a powder form. But if you don't crush it quite all the way down to a powder, and it's instead in little pieces, they call them nibs. And nibs are sometimes on the back or the inside of certain cacao, of certain chocolate bars. You'll notice, as you look through here, you'll notice that the cacao pods are different. Each area, each tree really creates a different shape, a different color, and those that are sourcing these beans, they can tell what it is by looking at it. I think people like experiencing new things, learning more about the world around them. That's why we travel. We want to learn about other people, other places, see what makes people tick and how things came to be. And exploring the world of craft chocolate gives us that ability to learn about the people and the places that we don't get to frequent, and to recognize the artistry that goes into certain fine foods. I happened on Amano. I went into their factory. I heard they make chocolate, and I started learning about it. And they had me tasting different chocolate from all over the world and explained just what I've explained here today. And I was hooked. It's fun for me to explore the world of chocolate.